Hello everybody, this is Alfredo from Blind Seekers again, where I remind you that if a totally blind person can get a bachelor's degree, you could also get a bachelor's degree. Have you ever gone to a trip and forgotten to take something? Or have you been asked by your supervisor to do something that you knew how to do before, but you no longer know how to do? Or at school, have you forgotten how to upload and submit a document to Blackboard or an online website from your school? I'm going to give you a tip that's going to resolve all these types of problems that you might have in your life. Like always, I'm going to start with a personal story. Then I'm going to tell you what is the tip, why you should use the tip, how you could use the tip, and where you can use the tip. You know, this past weekend, my wife and I decided to take our sons to camping. So I started a list of all the things that we were going to have to take. For example, the sleeping bag, the tent, the stove, and all the other stuff that we usually take to camping. Since I wanted grilled meat and my wife wanted French toast in the morning afterwards, I also created a list of all the food items that we had to take so that we would have all the ingredients we needed. I created this list about 3 or 5 days before going camping, and as I remembered things that I had to take to camp, I would add those to my list. I created my list in Excel because it was easy for me. Then the day came to pack everything into the truck. That day my wife gave me a list of her own of the things that we have to take to camp. Most of the stuff I already had in my list, but the things that I didn't have, I added them to my list. So me and my grandpa started putting everything into the truck, and when I would have to go upstairs to get an item, I would look at my Excel sheet and I would check off anything that I had already put inside the truck. This way I knew all the things that I had already put into the truck, and the leftover items were the stuff that I needed to put into the truck. I did the same thing with my ingredient list. Whenever I would put something into the cooler, I would check it off in Excel. So I would already know what things I needed to put inside the cooler and what things I already put inside the cooler. So I actually did this all morning long because I had to walk down the stairs and then walk up the stairs to the Excel sheet, check it off. I would grab something from the house and then go downstairs and put it inside the truck. And finally, after 4 hours of walking up and down the stairs, we were done and ready to go camping. So what is the tip? Basically, it is a checklist. In order to not forget anything when we're going to a trip, we should always have a checklist of all the items that we have to take to the trip. Similarly, when we have a job and we have certain tasks that we know we have to do like once a year, we should write a checklist of all the steps that we have to go through in order to accomplish that task, so that next time that we have to do it, since we haven't done it in a long time, we know how to do it. Likewise, when we're introduced to a new online site at school, or for example, Blackboard, we should write down the steps that it takes to upload and submit a document, so next time that we start classes again next semester, we already know how to do that without having to resort to the help menu. So many of you are asking yourself, what should I do this? This is an extra step in the process. I actually have to write it down. It's going to take me longer to do everything. Well, it actually won't, because you have a checklist and everything that you put in the luggage, you're going to check it off. And you only have to focus on the stuff that you haven't put inside the bag. Another reason that you might actually want to use this is because doctors use them. Doctors use a checklist to make sure that all the items that they use for the surgery are not inside the patients. So they check off that everything's outside the patient when the surgery is done. Air pilots use them all the time when the plane is going to lift off. They have a checklist that they check off every time they're going to lift off to make sure that they follow the steps, because if they don't follow them correctly, the plane might actually not lift off and go down. Many of you might be saying, I have a great memory. I never forget everything. Well, I actually don't know anybody that has never forgotten to take something when they go traveling. And lastly, another reason that you might want to use a checklist is because when you use a checklist, you write it down. So the process of remembering something is you remember that item or you put it in your brain. But once you put it on a checklist, you actually write it again in your brain. So you remember it twice. So it is more likely that you're going to remember to take that item if you write it down on a checklist than if you do not. Many of you might be asking yourself, how can I use a checklist? I use it in Excel because I can reuse my checklist. Next time I go camping, I'm going to use the same checklist. Other people might want to use a physical notebook and just write the items that you're going to check off and just check them off on the piece of paper. Other people might want to use the phone. There's actually a application on your phone called the Notes app. It's both on Android and iPhone. And you could write a list of all the items that you have to take to travel or a list of all the steps that you have to do. And I actually like that better than the notepad because you always have your phone with you and you could actually save and categorize each checklist so you could use them again. Some of you might be asking, where can I use a checklist? Well, I use checklists in a lot of areas, but some that come to mind are, for example, at work, when I have to submit my leave request, I have a checklist of all the steps that are required to submit a leave request. For example, the email that I have to send it to, and all the steps, the website that I have to go to. If I had to also put a phone number, I would also put it in my checklist. So next time that I have to submit a leave request, I have all that information. Another place that you could use it is at home. For example, for creating recipes. You could use them, have all the ingredients on top and just the steps at the bottom. That way you don't forget to do that famous recipe that you once did and loved it so much. So when can you use a checklist? I would actually advise everybody to use a checklist right before going to a trip, for example. So you have the items in your brain and you just put them in the checklist. That way you don't forget them. Or you could use a checklist right after you learn how to do something. For example, submitting an online form or learning how to upload a YouTube video. Just create a checklist and next time you have to upload a YouTube video, you're already gonna know. Now that you know that a checklist is a really effective way to remember to bring everything when you travel, or to remember how to do that task that your supervisor told you to do, but you forgot to do a long time ago, or to help you remember how to submit and upload a homework assignment on Blackboard or an online school site. Let me know in the comments how you're going to use the checklist to make your life easier. If you like this video, don't forget to like it because the more likes I have, the more people that can have this information. If you like the content, please subscribe so that you can get each video every time I upload a new video. And thanks for watching.